Hello, good evening, and welcome to the Super License F1 podcast. My name's Rodney.
And my name is Zach.
Zachary, it's the second week of F1. You're not tired of it yet, are you?
No. I could get used to this.
Wonderful.
A race every weekend for the rest of my days?
Your life. The rest of your life.
Yeah, that's a better way of saying it, right? Rest of my days sounds kind of like, oh no, how many days? If you're counting
so
it in
many days. If you think about it in days, think about it in decades. It's not that many.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm looking forward to...
Why the fuck are we talking about this? Anyway, F1 race, the Styrian Grand Prix, not the Austrian Grand Prix. Forget about that junk. Time for a Styrian Grand Prix. We've got a race recap to talk about. It was a good race. I think we should probably just give a little hat tip to that. But Zach, you're going to be throwing a super quiz my way, and we're going to have a look at the fantasy results. And that's basically what's going to happen this show. It's going to be good.
Yeah, I can't wait to just get straight into it because, as you said, a nice, exciting race. And, you know, the opportunity for this race not to be good because same track 2 weekends in a row, but we got to see all the things that we were hoping we would get to see. So in comparison.
Well, let's find out whether we were right or not in this week's race recap.
Let us race a bit. I gave him space.
Suck my balls, man.
Let's hurry up and get out of here. We got a race to do.
Styrian Grand Prix, the traditional historic Styrian Grand Prix. So much history. As many as one Grand Prix has been run as the Styrian Grand Prix. I think the easiest way to get into the race is probably going to be to do a 30-second recap. And I think, looking at the notes, this is like that Twitter meme. We should do a 30-second recap. Go ahead, checks notes. Me? Okay. I'll start the sound and then
Start your own timer.
refer back to the notes.
No cheating.
I'll see what I can do in 30 seconds to recap all the action from the race. Lewis Hamilton gets his first win of the year. He just clearly defeats Valtteri Bottas, who could only manage a measly second, the championship leader, Valtteri Bottas. The Ferraris decided to crash into each other. Leclerc decided to jump on Vettel's shoulders while he was driving. It's not the ideal time to do that. Slow pace from the Red Bull, couldn't really challenge, didn't have enough to get it done. Racing Point looked fast. I think that both of the drivers were involved in incidents. One did well, one did not. And then, what else have we got? George, bloody terrible.
I reckon if you got to the George Russell thing, that would have been the whole race. Like, I think that we could have just ended the show right there because I was like, oh yeah, this is a reasonable recap of all the things that happened. Like, if someone asked me on a Monday morning at work,
Russell. He just sort of was there and then he wasn't, and then that's it.
Yeah, poor guy.
So in a way, I did cover him.
Yeah, that's right. Well, why don't we start right at the top there? I suspected that Hamilton would come back with a vengeance after last week's mishaps. Then he would just be like, I'm going to smash everybody and take pole, and I'm going to smash everybody on race day, which is kind of what it felt like. His pole lap I feel like it was half a second faster than everybody. I'm so glad that we got qualifying in, by the way. Lots of thumbs up for maybe this new kind of, what would you say, like, urgency or push from Liberty Media just to be like, look, if we're going to have a short season and we don't know when we're going to be racing next, if there's a window to put qualifying in amongst all of this rain and wind and horribleness, let's just run it. And it was actually like a really interesting qualifying. But yeah, Lewis threw down the gauntlet to everybody and just said, hey man, I'm super, super, super fast. See if you can catch me. And they couldn't on race day. How did you read maybe Bottas's race then, considering Hamilton was so quick and Bottas had to kind of fight it out with Verstappen?
I mean, Bottas just found himself wrong-footed after qualifying, just starting that little bit further down the grid. I mean, I feel like we should say it's not an easy place to overtake here, but having said that, when you're in the fastest car, what's clearly the fastest car, it should be sort of easy. And one of the highlights of the race was Bottas getting past Verstappen and then Verstappen going, nah, and then just getting straight back past him. That was incredible racing and great determination, especially from Verstappen, who was in a car that was clearly slower. But essentially, I mean, I don't know what more Bottas could have really done. You know, I mean, he still leads the championship after 2 races. What more do you want?
No, that's true. And he did make he made the overtake twice. You know, you can't ask much more from him. You know,
did it pretty well, and he did it in that way that a lot of people found that they could do, which is the 2 overtaking points, or the best overtaking points, are corner 3 and corner 4. What drivers were tending to do is kind of go sort of to the outside of 3 so that you can straighten up faster and then get on the gas and then drift behind the other person, pull out and pass them before turn 4. That was what most people were doing. And yeah, that was what he did. Made it look really clean until it wasn't. Until Verstappen decided, I just don't want to let you pass me, so I won't.
Yeah, it was nice to see that quite respectful racing between them. After the lap 1 incident between the Ferraris, we're going to have one of those days where every battle is just going to be a little too close because all the drivers are a little rusty. Considering we had so many retirements last race, and I know a lot of those were down to reliability. I was kind of gearing up for another race where it's like, there's only a few days later. Why would the cars be any more reliable, or why would anybody be? Surely they're only marginally less rusty. I would argue that it's almost like Leclerc was channeling Vettel in his undertaking of Vettel, just kind of put the car in a gap that was always going to disappear. Around that was it the first corner? It can't have been the first corner. It wasn't that early. No, it was.
I don't think it was, but I think it was early.
Maybe the third corner. Yeah, very early in the lap, and it was just it just didn't look really good at all for Leclerc. And I'm sure everybody immediately would have been like, "Oh, what's Vettel done now?" But really, the way I read it, that was never a spot that Leclerc should have put his car, and I think it was probably just a snap decision to be like, well, there's a gap there, I'll just put it there, and Vettel will give me room. It's like, well, Vettel's got 3 other cars on his outside that are all squeezing him into that gap.
Yes.
It's always going to disappear. And yeah, maybe just a lack of experience from Leclerc, maybe, but I mean, he's raced in close quarters before. If anything, it's almost just like these Ferraris don't really know how to operate when they're all the way down the field together amongst what is quite a chock-a-block midfield. It's almost like every single team has an opportunity down there, especially early in the race. So yeah, you can't really be taking risks like that. Do you think it was an odd move from Leclerc?
Yeah, someone raised a good point that it looked as though he was sort of in two minds. He kind of committed, then pulled out, then recommitted. And someone made a good point that if it weren't Vettel on the inside there, it might not have been as tempting for him to dive down there, because I'm sure he didn't like qualifying behind him. I'm sure he doesn't like running behind him. And I'm sure any opportunity to jump in front, he's looking to take. But, the question was raised, would he have been a little bit more patient if it wasn't Vettel as a scalp that he was potentially going to claim if the move came off? Didn't look like it was going to. He admitted it was his fault. He did this other thing that he always seems to do, or it's an old habit. Two old habits of his. One is getting the red mist and just driving a bit like a dickhead. And then the other thing that he does, which is an old habit, is making a mistake and then absolutely beating himself up to the degree of okay, man, relax. You don't have to be so hard on yourself. He feels like the kind of guy that if you were playing battleships with him or something, he'd say B4 and you'd say miss, and he would be like, I'm so sorry. I have to apologize. I'm so sorry. I have no excuses. It's completely 100% my fault. And I don't know. I don't know where to look.
I just hope I can get better next time.
I don't know how I'll make it up to you. I'll spend the rest of my life making it up to you. I don't know how, but I will.
Yeah, it's a funny thing. It's almost like he's oscillating between the two, these two emotions of you're essentially the number one driver at Ferrari now, but at the same time, the other half of him is like, oh man, racing at Ferrari is such a tenuous position for a young driver. Got to make it work at every opportunity. They're going to be so mean to me when I get back, or they're going to think that I'm bad.
They're going to be mean to me.
But not.
They're going to say nasty things.
Going to give me say angry words to me in Italian. I can't handle that. But the pressure's on. I mean, Leclerc has a really good opportunity to stamp his authority on this team before Carlos Sainz Jr. arrives next season.
True.
Somewhat maybe with trepidation at this point, because, I mean, if you're happy to kind of move into maybe talking a little bit about some of the other teams, McLaren not looking too shabby. Maybe not as quick on race day.
Daniel Ricciardo will be looking at that McLaren and licking his lips, and Carlos Sainz will be looking at that Ferrari and shaking his head. Yeah,
that even if it was, I'm sure that Daniel was looking at just the nice change to a Mercedes power unit. I'm sure he was just like, if I could just get in a Mercedes powered car, maybe that will fix my career trajectory, at least for the short term. I'd be looking at that Ferrari PU if I was Carlos Sainz, just being like, wait, I thought you were meant to be really competitive as far as actual race pace goes, or the top speed goes, and that doesn't seem to be there anymore either. And the car just doesn't look great. Maybe Carlos would be able to find a way to kind of drag it across the line and improve it, but at this point, of all people, Lando Norris is probably like, look at me. Maybe I'm the next star of Formula One. I'll overtake everybody in the last lap.
I think Carlos Sainz will be not so jazzed about racing next year, but he'll at least be thinking, okay, 2022, that's the business. I have to be ready for that. So he's got that to look forward to, I suppose. But yeah, all of a sudden, not out of nowhere, but unexpectedly, Racing Point are looking super racy at the moment, and they've got the pace to, if they can't qualify up the front, they've got the pace to chase down, the best of the rest, the travellers. So Sergio Perez, I think, had a particularly good race. The voting, he got voted driver of the day before Lando Norris's barnstorming finish, might have swayed some votes. But anyway, Sergio Perez almost too fast for his own good, because he ends up getting involved in a tangle with Albon, and yeah, Sergio Perez, I'm on the record. I don't think he's as good as other people think he is. A lot of people just seem to sort of sit back, and then when he does well, they go, yeah, we've always thought that he's good. It's like, shut up. What are you talking about? But I'm on the record as saying I think he's a bit overrated, and, sometimes he can do a few okay things, but he's, week in, week out, he's just not that reliable, and this was another case of a silly incident and cost him his front wing. He had the chance to finish in P4, but then he ended up finishing in P6 with two cars only 0.2 of a second behind him, so it could have been P8. And then there's Stroll versus Ricciardo, which I have some very strong, clearly defined opinions about. So take your pick on what you want to talk about next.
Can we talk about something? This is a third option, and this is outside of this race, which is that Racing Point are going to be Aston Martin, like pure Aston Martin racing as of next year, right?
I think that's right.
And there was some little bit of chat about, Sebastian Vettel, where's he going to be racing? There's no way he's going back to Red Bull. Christian Horner was like, just shut up. There's no way. Why would we hire him? That makes absolutely no sense. We're currently spending all our money on cloning Max Verstappen. Why would we get Sebastian Vettel in? And then someone made an interesting point. I think it was just someone's response to maybe like a Chris Medland tweet that was like, what about Vettel going to Racing Point / Aston Martin, poster boy for Aston Martin, then, Perez would, because there's no way Stroll, Papa Stroll is going to dump his own child from his own race team. So that could push someone like Perez out of future Aston Martin and put Sebastian Vettel in there. What do you think of a move like that for Sebastian? Because those are the kinds of doors that look like they may be open to him. I don't think any of the top teams are open to taking him.
I think for that team, you would be saying goodbye to a whole chunk of money that Perez brings in. And then, not everyone shares my opinion that Perez is overrated. And I guess they have to think about where they're planning to be in the next 2 or 3 years. Because at the moment, they're not scoring regular podiums. So the next goal for them has to be regular podiums. And if anything, Sergio Perez is the guy who's like, look, when it's on, I will bring it. I might not bring it all the time, but when it's on, I'll bring it. And then who knows? So I feel like, also besides the money fact, would you take Vettel on form right now?
No, that's a good point. It's difficult.
Not everybody thinks like that. Some people just think 4-time champion, but would you take him on form? Because I wouldn't. Yeah.
And we've mentioned in the past as well, does he have a massive fan base? Like, is anybody who are the
as
massive
far as I know,
fans?
his family don't even talk to him. Who knows anything about this guy?
And with behind the mask as well, we'll know nothing. We know even less.
Even less
now that they're all wearing face masks. Tell me about Stroll and Ricciardo. What beef you got with Stroll, my boy Stroll?
What the bloody hell is going on here? Because Stroll tries this ridiculous move up the inside and then pushes Ricciardo off the track and goes off himself. And the stewards look into it, and I'm like, yeah, Rod can go to bed. Ricciardo's going to inherit, P5. And Stroll's going to get a penalty, and then no, they just look at it and they go like, no, that's fine. Ricciardo got a penalty for the same thing last season, trying to overtake and pushing someone wide and then going off. You get a penalty for that. That's what it's for. So someone needs to explain to me why Stroll didn't get a penalty.
No, I think maybe the stewards just kind of went to sleep. There was too much for them to look at. They were like, oh, there's racing, it's all good racing, it's all part of that, what's going on at the end there, and it's too difficult for Stroll to get out of the way of that. He made a genuine attempt and just went a little wide, and that's what happens. And Ricciardo wasn't
stewarded for fight. 2 races in a row. The problem is, though, the car behind got through. So not only did Ricciardo lose to someone, now look, Stroll looked faster, granted. Stroll looked like he was going to get him eventually, granted. But you've still got to put on a valid legal move. And if you overtake someone and leave the track, that's just not a legal move. So Ricciardo loses out to Stroll and the car behind. That's outrageous.
It is outrageous. You're right, and this is where people will say, can you question Stroll's ability? He's been in Formula One now for a while. I can't think of too many like Stroll overtakes where I'm like, oh, what a star that kid is. It's, he's not even really a kid of Formula One anymore. And this just seemed, it's funny because we talked about the opportunity kind of coming up to corner 4 to make that overtake happen. You can get there's enough room on that kind of back straighty area to get the slipstream and get that move done. And this felt like a slightly impatient move, and kind of a sloppy one. Yeah, scrappy is probably the best word. Yeah, sloppy, scrappy.
They're both good words.
And look, there wasn't a lot of time left, right? This is last lap, essentially, second last lap. So maybe I'm just imposing my own why don't you run the perfect race, Lance Stroll? But yeah, he doesn't.
No, you're being harsh on yourself.
Yeah, he's just a little sloppy, and I tend to agree with you. This could have, regardless if it was Daniel Ricciardo or not, if you're not in control when making the overtake, then if he crashed into him, if Stroll had run into Ricciardo, I think that the stewards would have been like, yes, penalty. He didn't. That wasn't a good overtake, but because Daniel Ricciardo essentially got out of his way, he should have maybe just stayed there and taken the hit and been like, look, he crashed into me. But Daniel wants the points, so regardless of how.
But while we're talking all things Renault and Racing Point, let's jump ahead 1 point in the race in the show notes, because Racing Point was so fast and they pulled down Renault's pants and smacked their bare bottom so badly that Renault have protested Racing Point's design to the stewards, to the FIA to investigate, basically. And this is an interesting one because the commentators are falling over themselves to inform you that the teams are not happy with the design of the Racing Point. They're saying that they just copied the Mercedes car from last year. The story is that they went and took a whole bunch of photos, which anybody can do. There's plenty of photos of the old F1 cars, and then copied the design, which... I don't understand. To be honest, I just don't have a problem with that. I just don't understand what are you protesting? That they did a smart thing? That they looked at what worked and did it? Are you crazy? How can you protest that? Apparently, there's a regulation that says that's some of the parts of the car that they're protesting are ones that have been directly copied from a competitor. And the argument is competitors are not allowed to design that part for another team. And by copying the design, they have designed it for you directly or indirectly. They've copied it. They've designed it for you. So I think that's a pretty wishy-washy, weak argument. This is the kind of protest that I think will probably just go away, a bit like the Red Bull protest against the DAS last week. But 2 weeks, 2 protests for technical things. What do you think?
Well, this one's a little bit more interesting, I think, because I think that Renault obviously had one strong piece of evidence they've decided to focus on, which is the brake ducts, right? Yeah. And it was enough that the FIA were like, oh, yeah, we think there's probably enough evidence there to take this forward, and they immediately took the...
Not that they agree, but that they said you are within your rights to protest. Now, and they protested. Now the FIA may turn around and go, yeah, no, we're never going to agree. I don't know, but
but they did take action, right? The FIA went and put the brake ducts from the Racing Point car immediately in Parc Fermé, sealed them up and took them away. So they're going to be spending resources looking into it. So it's not like they immediately just threw out the idea and just said because the FIA can do that. No, but I don't think the FIA just goes and says, okay, yeah, because what could Renault just walk up to Ferrari and say we think their engine is illegal? Pull it out and look at it. I don't think they can just do that. I think they have to present enough evidence to say, look, we can show you enough to say that this is worth looking at. And the fact that the FIA didn't immediately throw it out, I think does signal that there's at least something worth investigating.
So no. So you're saying that every time someone protests, if the FIA investigates, then there's by default some fault, some guilt.
No, that's not what I'm saying. No, I'm saying that there is. What I'm saying is that there is enough credence to this that it's worth that the FIA believe it's worth investigating. That they're not just investigating for no reason or to make Renault happy. There is in Renault's protest there was enough that they had a sound enough argument to raise a concern. Because if it was that easy to get the FIA just to investigate everything, then teams would be doing it as a tactic of distraction every day.
Right. I'd probably argue the other way, where I would say if they had thrown out the protest, then that would be a sign that there's overwhelming evidence that there's nothing there to protest in the first place. But I'm not sure that them following up on the protest is a sign of, yeah, well, there must be something there. I just don't know. I just don't know.
Yeah,
anyway,
no, that's reasonable.
So the only other two talking points, last lap specialist Lando Norris did it again, had a barnstormer of a finish. And I mean, he's so good at just those last couple of laps in the race. I'm sure he'll be lobbying for shortened races, probably around 2 or 3 laps.
Yeah, he's a real, I mean, I kind of hate to say, to call it like instinct driver, but, he takes his opportunities, and he's not, he's the opposite of sloppy. He's not mucking about here, and he's driving with utter confidence. It must be nice to know your future is secure, that, the McLaren had an opportunity probably to, replace him with another driver, but they believe in him, and they're going to put Daniel Ricciardo next to him. So, everything's kind of going right for Lando Norris, and he would have his eye on, a bit more podium action this season. He wants another one of those trophies delivered by robots, and that's not,
well.
This reminds me a little bit.
Now?
Well, give me, yeah, but I would say that it kind of reminds me of Daniel Ricciardo at Red Bull in 2014, when he would kind of pick up the scraps when when other things wouldn't go well for anybody. There was an opportunity if you just race well, race consistently, don't make too many mistakes, and take your opportunities when they come. You can find yourself not just on the podium but winning races. And there's every chance that if the Ferraris just keep underperforming, and if there is a good qualifying opportunity for Lando, or if they get one race where sometimes those races get thrown out where you can do something with a contra tyre strategy and you can just make it work, get a safety car in your favour, and suddenly we've got a McLaren winning a race. I wouldn't put that beyond McLaren and especially Lando Norris's grasp this season. But yeah, why don't we talk about the robots? You've got strong feelings about the trophy delivery robots?
God, they're stupid. God, they're stupid. Get rid of them.
They're so crap.
That whole thing sucked. They've got this ridiculous green carpet thing that they've taped down on the edges. They're calling it like the Walk of Champions or something, and it sucks. It looks so povo. And then these ridiculous moving podiums that move by themselves, wheel a trophy over. It's just everything about it's awful.
Did you see they had to shove them to get them moving?
What did they have to do?
The guy had to shove each one to get it moving. Because obviously the motor doesn't have enough torque to get the whole thing moving.
God, this is embarrassing. I did actually see it for the F2 race. So when it happened for the F1 race, it wasn't a surprise, but it's still equally disappointing and just embarrassing. And there's only one way, in my opinion, they can actually save this thing, which is to race them. Race them, Zach. We've got to race them.
Just race them. Just race them.
Race them against each other.
Yeah, I want them racing. I want them almost more like Robot Wars style. I want them to have little spinning... wow.
With axes and
stuff. It's a good brainstorm. Yeah, little axes, little flamethrowers. Can we make it that when they do deliver them to the drivers that they, that there's every chance that they reverse a little bit as Lewis Hamilton's reaching for the trophy, that it backs off a little bit, like, oh, one more, have another go. Oh, no, you didn't get it that time. Just add something there to make it a little bit more of a challenge. But I think we're only one step away from drone delivery, Rod. I think that will be the next thing.
I would prefer drone delivery. That would be great.
Yeah, there's a risk that you might just get a little bit of like pendulum motion on the trophy and just whacks a driver in the face, which, maybe...
They're wearing masks. What's the problem?
Yeah, fine. All fine, right?
Yeah. I don't know. Do you want to talk about George Russell? It just seemed like he found himself in the middle of the grid without really,
without
doing
reason.
very much to, I mean, he found himself in unfamiliar waters, let's say that. And then it seemed like he was trying to go racing, but then just, in an overtake attempt on nobody, he ended up off the track. And it's like, what are you doing, George? Did you forget how to race in the midfield? A bit of an embarrassing one for him, I think. He tried to claim after the race, I was trying to move on someone, it didn't work. And then I think he's later tweeted, I don't know why I said that. I just had a moment and forgot how to drive.
Yeah, just had a moment. It's not looking bad for Russell. It's not looking terrible for Williams either. There's chats about a different buyer, and the car's a bit better this year. Maybe they'll keep improving, and they won't drop out of Formula One like I suggested they would. Pretty sure the the post-season show with the Box and Neutrals boys. I suggested that at the end of last year, maybe, that this would be their last season in Formula One. I think they're a little bit more resilient than I gave them credit for.
Don't count your chickens. Are we ready to move on to the Fantasy League?
Yeah.
Fantasy League. It's back again, and we've had 2 races down, so we are definitely getting into the thick of it. We've got a couple of results in. Maybe we'll switch to this. Well, I've got the Styria results up. Let's go through those first. And ranking fairly well, the top 3, we've got Team Hypothesis, Team 2, Mission Winamom, which is Mission Wine Mom, and then in position 3, Team Mark H1. Lots of people who have come back with their same team names, which is really good. I'm just looking for any funny ones down the list. Spin Master Vettel, that's pretty good. That could be a DJ name. I see Lincoln the Naughty Dog, so it's time for him to charge. Marxist Candy, don't know what that's about, but I like those 2 words put together. Maybe we'll go to the overall results as well and see who's top of the leaderboard for the whole two races. It is the same person, Team Hypothesis. I don't know why, but after the first race, the actual Fantasy League thing said, hey, your league is in the top 10 for leagues. They pit not just the drivers within, not just the competitors within a league against each other, but they can pit our league against all the other leagues. And for some reason, after the first race, we were in the top 10, and now we've fallen out. So we all need to lift our game and do a little bit better, especially me, who is like, I don't know, 47th out of 51 or something. So I feel very bad about myself. I don't know how I will make it up to you, but I will. I will commit my life to improving things. I will not rest until I can work out this damn thing and how to score some points.
Yeah, my team needs a review as well. I mean, the lads just not working for me. My predictions should get easier though, guys. If you want those bonus points, get your good predictions locked in before qualifying, because it feels like Mercedes might just be awesome for the whole season. So, Hamilton, Bottas.
Time for a super quiz, mate?
Yeah, man.
We will accept a couple of questions. Should one only win one? Would one want to have won that one in round 1?
Can you repeat the question?
Your turn, Zach. Hit me with your best shot.
Yeah, well, how about Fernando, don't you forget about me quiz?
Oh, no. Wow, fantastic.
Fernando Alonso, he's coming back into Formula One.
Guess who's back?
We didn't even mention this. We didn't do a news segment or anything like that. Do you feel good about this before we jump into the quiz?
No, not really.
No, I tend to agree with that.
He's past his best going to a team that's not really even challenging the midfield right now, so who cares?
38!
Oh, dear.
That's enough. He's not challenging.
38 is enough. Remember that show, 38 is enough? It's good.
All right, Rod. The Fernando, don't you forget about me quiz. This is celebration of our favourite driver ever. You sound ecstatic about him coming back to Formula One. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 questions for you. Are you ready?
Ready, Freddie.
Great. Question number 1. Who is the only driver on the grid this season that competed in Fernando Alonso's last World Championship winning season?
Kimi Räikkönen.
It's Kimi Räikkönen. Bang. That's simple,
boom.
Rod.
Boom.
So
That's
easy.
What a thought.
All right. Yeah, I mean, he's pretty old as well. I think we were pretty mean about Kimi Räikkönen continuing to drive as well.
Oh,
we were like, all right, mate, surely you don't need to be keeping somebody else out of Formula One. But he's fine. Question number 2. When Alonso returned to Renault in 2008, after a brief sojourn at McLaren, who was his teammate? Do you remember?
Look, I don't know. I'm casting my mind back. My mind doesn't go back far enough as 2008. You're just trying to cast back to the last time we had this question in a super quiz. I'm sure we've had this one, and I just don't.
All right, I'll give you a clue.
Who it is.
He's got a something junior is his name. He's a junior.
Bloody hell.
Let me know if you want another clue.
Give me all day and I'll get it. But I'm having trouble. Can I get his first initial of his first name?
N. His first initial is N.
Yeah,
N for Nelly.
Nelson Piquet. Got it. That was all I needed.
Piquet Junior.
That was the answer.
All right, Rod. Let's stay on Nelson Piquet just for a second because I thought this was interesting. Question number 3. Piquet was dropped unceremoniously in the 2009 summer break, so halfway through the season. Who replaced him as Alonso's teammate for the rest of that season? I've got multiple choice here, to take the edge off a little bit. A, Romain Grosjean, B, Adrian Sutil, or C, Jaime Alguersuari, whose name I just like saying.
All good options. I'm going to go with Romain Grosjean.
It was Romain Grosjean. That surprised me. I didn't know that. And I can't believe that he's been around for this long.
When you see old photos of Romain Grosjean with the really long curly hair and looking super young, he's wearing those Renault overalls.
That's
how I remember.
That's how you remember. See, you knew that one. You can remember back to 2009. It's
Sometimes,
2008 that's the problem. Yeah.
Yes.
That's it. All quizzes 2009 plus, that from now on. All right, question number 3. In Fernando's last season, 2018, his then 2021 future teammate Esteban Ocon was racing for Force India. Who finished higher in the championship that season? Esteban Ocon or Fernando Alonso?
Surely Esteban Ocon.
It was Alonso by 1 point. Esteban Ocon, 49 points.
Me.
Fernando Alonso, 50 points.
Was that... I'm remembering that Drive to Survive finale episode where they're like, let's try and get 1 extra point. He's like, I've got 1,200 points or whatever. Maybe they were like, get 1 extra point and you'll beat Ocon in the championship.
Well, that could have been it. I mean, I looked at their DNFs as well because, obviously Alonso had a horrible season with McLaren just getting DNF after DNF.
Well, it was at McLaren, so yeah, that's a redundancy.
Yeah, but I'm pretty sure Ocon had 5 and a DNF, a disqualification as well when they changed teams when Force India became Racing Point through that season and they couldn't race one race, so they didn't qualify at all. So, based on all of my deep analysis, Esteban Ocon is only 1 point worse than Fernando Alonso, and taking into consideration Esteban Ocon's got this whole season to get better at F1, he should be way better than Alonso. So I'm predicting Ocon better than Alonso at Renault. Question number 5, Rod. In his absence from Formula One, Alonso has won 2 Le Mans 24 hours and competed in the Dakar Rally, along with a whole bunch of other stuff that isn't as interesting. But, interestingly, these were all for the same team named, and this is multiple choice, where they named A, Toyota Gazoo Racing, Toyota Wazoo Racing, or Toyota Gazoo Racing.
I'll go Gazoo.
It is Gazoo. Is that the one that stood out as the least
stab in the dark.
Silly?
Well, I mean, it is silly, but I don't know why I picked that one. I have no idea.
It just felt right. Sometimes you got to trust your gut, and you got to stick it up the inside.
Up the vibe. Yeah.
Lick that stamp and send it. Sometimes, Rod. That's all you got to do. All right, Rod. The final question. Question number 6. Last but not least, what is the name of Fernando Alonso's fashion label? Is it A, Jamoan, B, Kamoa, or C, Mild Suaven?
It's Kamoa.
It's Kamoa, yes. Well done.
It's Hawaiian for something.
Hawaiian.
That was in a super quiz once as well.
Yeah. Do you think we'll see Kamoa on the Renaults next season? You reckon there'll be a sponsor?
We're going to be lousy with Kamoa. It's going to be everywhere. It brings back the opportunity for me to redesign that hat that says quinoa that I was going to make in the same lettering, but I didn't because he retired, and I was like, well, this is going to have a shelf life of like 5 minutes, so I didn't do it, but now I can do it. Look forward to getting a quinoa hat in the mail for Christmas, mate.
Oh, I'm down. I'm so down. Well,
have fun explaining that to the person at the Whole Foods when you're walking around with a hat that says quinoa.
Quinoa.
It's like an F1 reference, except it's not even really F1. It's like Fernando Alonso's brand. Doesn't matter. Good to meet you.
It's deep. It's so many.
It's 3 levels deep.
Adjacent.
That's the problem. That's why it's good and bad.
Welcome to Formula One adjacent.
Well, thanks for a great quiz, mate. I always get the nerves when you dish up what I think is going to be an easy quiz because I'm like I'm gonna completely space on all of these and look a fool. But I only looked the Joe on the street,
yes.
passable F1 knowledge and grand knowledge. Well, I mean, look at this. We're flying through this week's show, but this is a good thing because we've all got important stuff to do and you can go and do it. It's time for us to reach into our brains and pull out one final thought, Zach.
Yeah, something I wanted to discuss, which is a lot of F1 journalists have been talking about this, which is that they're all on their way to Hungary right now. Today, even, a lot of journalists moving from Austria to Hungary. And Hungary's like, all you UK passport holders, you've probably all got coronavirus. So you have to be in strict lockdown. No going to the supermarkets. Like, you can only go to, like, the hotel and the racetrack. There is nothing else. And I think that's a little bit of a sign for, like, the disparity, like that Formula One is not just one, like, as I said last week, like just a circus that just moves around as one big bubble. And this kind of goes in with the wider point around, was it both Ferrari drivers went back or that left the bubble? I mean, I know that Charles Leclerc went to Monaco and kind of hung out with some people. Yeah, and Bottas was like, I didn't see anyone, and Leclerc's like, I did, but I was careful. Yeah, it's like, I thought the bubble was there for a reason. Tagged in
that I'm about to go and untag myself from.
Yeah, so it's just this constant kind of precipice we're on here, which is that it's good, lots of testing, no positive cases, that's all awesome. You know, they've done like 5,000 tests now or some shit, like some insane number. No one's got it. That is awesome, but it's still... I still think once we get out of this European part of the season, I have no idea how things are going to go around the rest of the world. But yeah, did you have any feelings on the trepidation of moving forward with Formula One? Do you feel like it's looking okay now that we've had 2 races? Do you feel comfortable with it? And do you think we're in for any weirdness moving forward?
I still think that we're going to see an outbreak of something. Someone is going to pick up something. It's just going to happen. And hearing the F1 drivers who went back to Monaco after one race, having not raced for, 7 months, going, I miss home. It was one race. I have to go home for a few days.
Jump in a helicopter.
I was like, are you fucking kidding me? So I thought that was ridiculous, and I don't see any reason why they have to do that. When there's back-to-back races in the same country, just fucking stay there. And I think it was Sebastian Vettel that got a warning, not so much for where he went or who he saw, but my understanding is that he was seen very close to some Red Bull people, all with their masks off, all talking for a while. So
that's what it was.
I can only suppose that Sebastian Vettel was suggesting that if he open-mouth kissed Helmut Marko, that he has to take him back. I think he was like, remember that clause in my contract? If I can catch you and kiss you, you have to take me back.
Gotta catch you.
You think that he was evoking that clause. That's all I can think.
And, based on Vettel's form right now, it'd be really sloppy, that kiss. Oh
boy.
Got any thoughts? Okay. Any final thoughts, Rod?
Any final thoughts? Get rid of the stupid trophy robots. Not a fan of those. Okay. I had this,
I'll make a call.
I wouldn't be, when we first went down into lockdown all those months ago, all those years and decades ago, the first stories came out of sports still being run, but with no fans. And the joke was that there's still mascots there. And I just had this mental idea of the mascots with like a t-shirt cannon shooting t-shirts into empty grandstands. For some reason, that just struck me as so funny. And then when I was thinking, how could we deliver these trophies in a way that is better than these stupid trophy robots? All I could think is just getting a cannon, just shooting the trophies at the drivers. So I say, look, 2020, this year's a whole complete write-off. Let's just approach it with an open mind. Let's give it a shot.
I love the idea. But one thing I would say is that Formula One drivers have a very particular set of skills, right? And, we've seen some of them are good at soccer, and, we've seen Daniel Ricciardo somewhat playing basketball, but he doesn't look super coordinated. I think it's a very specific set of coordination to be a Formula One driver. And I don't think that necessarily translates evenly or effectively into many other sports. I don't know if I would trust throwing a trophy at a Formula One driver.
But imagine how good they would be at heading the ball in football and soccer. Because their necks,
strong.
Hit that thing straight through the net, like it would just break straight through.
But I wouldn't trust a single one of them to catch anything.
Oh, yeah, geez. Well, we'll have to make them out of something really soft, like teddy bear or, I don't know, plush ball, cush ball. Yeah. It's trophies out of cush balls.
Yeah. I was a little disappointed just on the trophy thing again that they seem to be the exact same trophies as the previous weekend.
Were they?
track.
Oh, yeah,
layout.
and the other thing was the
Made of
official
wood.
F1 account still using hashtag Austrian Grand Prix. It's like, it's not the Austrian Grand Prix. Don't say that. Stop saying that.
They're just...
Why even
it's stuff
call
like
it a
that.
different thing if the hash? I mean, everyone knows the hashtag is that is canon.
Yes, exactly. It's the trophy cannon. Shoot,
It is
all
hashtag
cannons.
canon. They shoot it out of a hashtag cannon and then that lands on Twitter.
Can we get hologram trophies maybe?
Hologram
Delivered on the
trophies?
on those robots,
oh.
and they do it like Princess Leia style. You know, like, help me, Lance Stroll. You're my only hope.
We could.
And that could be the trophy.
The other thing that's amazing, there's a clip going around online of the F1 2020 game and a glitch during the trophy ceremony where Romain Grosjean's head is completely missing, and it is hilarious. And Lewis Hamilton walks over and sprays champagne at him, and he still like shields his face even though he doesn't have a head. So good. Recommend you checking that one out. That's my gift to you. Go and look at that, everyone listening. Zach, I think we might boot it home. The next race is the Hungarian
got one
Grand
more
Prix,
thing.
and that's coming up. Oh, okay. Sorry.
Yeah,
My apologies.
make the trophies.
I will
the
spend the
trophies
rest of
should
my
be
life trying to make it up to you and all of your spawn.
the trophies should be the robots themselves. If you're going to use an RC car to drive them over, why not make the whole thing the trophy? So, like, the whole thing is a little remote controlled little car thing, and then you just pick that
I
whole
thought
thing
you meant
up.
like the podium is in the shape of a trophy, and the trophy drives over, and sitting on top is a little car that they pick up, and that's the trophy.
That would be fucking amazing as well.
Flip the script.
Or could we put the drivers on remote control podiums and deliver the drivers to the trophy?
That's so much better. That's so much better.
They could steer themselves over. They could drive their own things. Oh, Rod, they're segways. Just make the trophy podiums little segways.
Yep.
Then make the driver podium little personal segways that say 1, 2, and 3 on them, and they can just scoot around, and then they can get to in front of the trophy and pick it up. It's done. Why could we start up? Surely we could just be consultants for Liberty Media and just sort this shit out for them.
Other people who come up with worse ideas than that are making literally billions of dollars every year.
Yes, exactly. Tell me about the next race, though, Rod.
Hungary, no, it's in Budapest. Budapest. You know how to say it, I don't. Budapest?
Yeah, Budapest. Yeah.
Budapest. I think I found out there's
and
two
it's the
separate cities that are next to each other.
Magyari. Yes, there's Buda and there's Pest.
It's that one that I don't want to pronounce. You go ahead and say it.
Buda and Pest.
No, the track. The actual track.
It's so annoying. My lovely neighbours, one of them is Hungarian and can actually say it correctly. Actually, they both can.
Wow.
But I should have got them on to do that. To tell us, they could give us a lesson on how to say it. Maybe I'll learn it before next race, and I'll get my pronunciation perfectly down before the next podcast.
That's called Sizzle. So stay tuned for the next episode, the Hungarian Grand Prix. It's not far away. Hope you're loving these back-to-back races. There is no time to be resting. I'm sure that everyone will be tuning back in for Free Practice 1 and those Thursday press conferences where, hey, how great was it? We've spent, in the last 15 days, we've spent, 11 of them together. Great. Well, until next race and until next time I talk to you, my name's been Rodney.
My name's been Zach.
Take it easy. Take care of yourself and see you later. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Oh, yeah!